architect. The Weston and Sampson team with us is Cassie Bethany, Farah DeCock, Lee Koska, Ryan Niles, and Mary Rudiman. All of us will be able to answer questions. Probably about half of us will be presenting to you tonight. Go
Can
ahead
I
into the
also,
agenda.
oh,
Go
I just
ahead.
want to jump in for 1 second, Jen. I forgot, I just want to let everyone know that this meeting this evening is being recorded. There's some neighbors that weren't able to join, and this way we'll be able to share it with them afterwards.
Great, thanks. We'll go through the agenda briefly right now. We're going to go through the project history and the environmental update, talk to you about the tot lot and stockpiles, park overview, design ideas, and an open discussion. We will take a break after the tot lot and stockpile update to pause for about 10 to 15 minutes to get some questions out. If anybody has questions specific about environmental, tot lot, or the stockpile, and then we'll go into the park overview, design ideas, and additional Q&A at the end. Now I'd like to turn it over to Lee Koska.
Thank you so much, Jen. All right, next slide, Farah. All right, so first off, we just wanted to give a quick recap of all the environmental work that has happened to date at the park and how we've gotten to where we are now. So initial testing of site soil was performed in March of last year, and that was done to support basketball court construction, which is the top right area of the little map we have shown here. Um, that soil testing was later expanded to include the rest of the park, with each of the little squares or circles on this plan representing a sample that was collected of site soil. The results of that sampling showed that the soil was impacted with polychlorinated biphenyls, or PCBs, as well as heavy metals and ash. And these were attributed to a historic fire that occurred at the site back when it was occupied by the Squire meat packing plant, which basically occupied this whole area, the adjacent parking lot for the shopping center and the surrounding region. So as a result of this testing, the park was shut down in September of last year, and design for a remedial strategy for the park started. Ultimately, capping of site soils with removal of certain areas that were particularly elevated in either PCBs or metals was selected as the remedial option for the site. And this was also discussed and vetted with US EPA and Mass DEP in the last couple of months. All right, next slide, please. So since our last meeting, a number of groundwater wells around the perimeter of the site were sampled, and the good news, results all came back below applicable standards. Everything was basically looked good. The results were below drinking water standards, which are the most protective standards under the environmental regulations of the state of Mass. So groundwater is not considered a significant route of exposure at the site. Next slide. So this spring, we've been working to get the tot lot reopened. The upgrades began in March, and essentially the existing wood fiber and sand within the little sandbox area were removed. A robust Marafi fabric, which you can see in the photos here, that's that orange material, was placed under all of the play areas, and then additional wood fiber and sand were replaced on top of the fabric. The fabric essentially restricts access to the underlying soils, and the combination of all of these materials acts as a barrier so that kids playing in the park can't access anything below the play area. We've also reconfigured the fence line to allow access to this area. And similarly to the overall remedial approach for the park, this was vetted with Mass DEP and US EPA before we started all these improvements. Next slide, please, Farah. So next on the list is stockpile removal. So there are currently two stockpiles of soil over in the basketball court area from initial construction that was done in that area. So we're working on getting those materials off-site within the next month. Um, Access to the area for trucks to remove the material will be off Rufo Road near the McDonald's, as you can kind of see here. And we will note that police details will be on site to support overall traffic management and getting pedestrians around the work zone as we get trucks in to get the soil loaded and sent off site. Next slide. Unfortunately, there are a handful of small diameter trees that are going to have to be removed to the site to support getting the trucks in to access the stockpiles. But we will note that these trees are going to get replaced as part of the overall park construction happening over the next couple of years. Next slide. Finally, wanted to give an overall updated timeline on the park. So as you can kind of see here, design is ongoing. Um, we are targeting spring of 2027 to begin the actual construction at the park with a targeted reopening date, which is tentative, of fall of 2028. As you can see at the bottom, community engagement is going to be continuous throughout this process. And I do want to note that we will be holding an in-person meeting in June of this year to keep folks up to date. And so there will be more information on that coming in the next couple of months. So please stay tuned on that. All right. And next slide. At this point, I will open it up for questions on kind of any of the environmental related issues before we talk a little bit more about all the planned improvements for the park and what you might be seeing coming up, in the park's future here. So,
Thanks,
Kristen,
Lee.
oh,
Yep.
thanks, Jen.
So we will, if anybody wants to raise their hand, we're happy to take some questions. We will leave it open for Q&A for a little bit. I do see in the Q&A, there's a question about the trees. Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for joining. I will say that we met on site and we looked at every conceivable access to the site from trucking on the residential roads was just a non-starter. The size of the trucks that we need to get in here in order to load them out. This was the least impactful that we could identify for the park. I believe we looked off of coming off of Fifth. We looked at coming off of all the different access points and what that would have entailed. So let's see if there's any additional hands.
I could jump in, Jen. We
Okay.
have a question about the papers on the fences and if they will be updated, and I will take that one. We will definitely get, I know that some of those also have been faded and torn up since this first closure, so we'll definitely get the signage on the fencing updated, especially once that tot lot remains open. How will the dust, this is a good one. I don't know if Lee, if you want to answer this, how will the dust be contained during that removal process?
Sure. So there is going to be suppression of all the dust with spraying it with water as the stockpiles are loaded out. And both city staff and Weston and Sampson will be on site performing dust monitoring while this work is going on. So our first line of defense is essentially to keep everything thoroughly wetted down as it's going in the trucks. If there's any visible dust, work will stop. Everything will get kind of re-soaked to make sure the dust is kept down. And then we'll also be keeping tabs on all the dust with the actual dust meters to get a action level. And if the dust exceeds that action level, again, work will stop. Everything will get sprayed down again to keep the dust under control.
We do have a hand raised. Kristen, do you want to unmute Marianne?
Sure, one second. Go ahead, Marianne, you should be able to talk. Marianne, you just need to unmute at the bottom left of your screen.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, We have a couple who come down to the East End House, senior couple, and they're having a hard time walking from where they live, the apartment building on McGrath Highway. And they were questioning when the walkways might be opened. You have the top lot being open, but is there any idea when a couple more the walkways might be open for them to walk straight through?
The walkway between the rink and the park remains open.
They find that very hard to get through. I guess there's barriers on the walkway.
It's completely clear.
Okay, because they had pictures of it the yesterday saying they weren't. So,
Okay, I'll
all
go
right,
check that
I'll
again
take a
tomorrow.
walk over and I'll let you know.
Thanks, Miriam.
Okay.
On that same topic, I do get this question from some other residents as well, is the walkway that leads from Winter Street to the Star Market Plaza, and what's the possibility of opening that path prior to the park reopening?
We have not evaluated that, but we can definitely evaluate that.
Thank you. Will any of the remediation work or the contaminated soil removal potentially cause contaminated dust to be into the tot lot area that was set to be open?
So we don't expect it to because we're going to be keeping dust under control through all of the spraying and whatnot that I mentioned. Um, One thing I will note is there will be ongoing inspections of the tot lot area to make sure that all of the existing wood fiber and sand materials stay in place and that there's no damage to that underlying fabric. One other question I saw was with regards to number of trucks. Um, we're anticipating, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong here, a couple weeks of trucking. The material is ultimately getting loaded out to a rail facility in Worcester and then sent south to a appropriately licensed landfill in Alabama. So the dirt has a long way to go, but first step will be getting it out of the park and into the rail system to ultimately go to the final landfill.
Answer your question about the trucks, we are expecting 6 trucks a day for 10 days.
I'll note too that that's a conservative estimate. Our hope is that ultimately we have fewer trucks than that, but we want to, make sure we had a reasonable high end number, just in case the work took a little longer than expected.
A good question is, are there any opportunities to open the park in waves similar to what we're doing with the tot lot when we open that?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Do we have any opportunity to open the park in waves like we're opening the tot lot before the greater park? Is there any opportunity there?
We have not evaluated that. We will have to do some additional testing in order to have exact estimates on what earthwork we will be having to do. So there is still a significant amount of analysis we have to do with the larger park area. And right now, it does not seem as though we have an exact plan as to the number of tests and when we're going to do that. So we will be continuing to update the community as that becomes more information becomes available.
Thank you.
I
When
would
will,
just add,
oh, go
Kristen, I
ahead.
would just add to that one is that, once there's two things that are happening here. One is the soil remediation, and then there's the rebuilding of the park. So while we were able to open the tot lot again, when we begin the park design and the park construction, and we'll get into that, the tot lot's going to need to get shut down again. And to get a contractor in to do this work, um, in an efficient way and get the overall park open quicker, phasing it like that really doesn't make a lot of construction sense. And from an environmental standpoint, we would certainly need to look deeper into that.
Thank you. And when will the tot lot, when is it set to reopen?
The fence is scheduled to be removed tomorrow.
Thank you.
We've
Getting a
got
lot of, oh, go ahead.
we've got plenty of more time for we could do. We've got 9 open questions. Kristen, you want to keep going?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep going. We're getting a lot of questions about those those hard surface pathways that go through the park and just looking into the opportunity to open those.
We will definitely look at evaluating those. Thanks, everybody.
Will there be any ongoing monitoring or testing of any kind in the tot lot while there's trucking and other work in the area?
So generally the dust monitoring will be done downwind, but we can take a look at having a dust monitor over in that area for the duration of that construction.
Thank you. I know someone said we mentioned a June meeting and someone suggesting having it before summer vacation starts since a lot of families um, get busy or leave the area. And I can confirm, this is breaking news, that we're going to be having the meeting on June 9th. So I agree too. I was happy to get it in before school's out for the year. A lot more questions about the path. Okay, what about the truck route? Is there any truck route other than Rufo Road?
Currently, the only truck route is going to be in off of McGrath, in through Rufo Road and back out the same way.
All right. How will the information that we have tonight be circulated to the wider community, including the school department, community organizations, CYS? So we'll continue to this meeting has been recorded and we're going to put it up on the project page. If you do know anyone that has not yet signed up for the project email list, if you go to the project page, which we share right on the screen right here, you could sign up right on that page for the email list and it will be sent out to that list, or anyone could be directed to that project page and find all the information there as well.
I do want to just go back for another second. So truck routes were evaluated. We evaluated coming in off of Gore Street. We evaluated coming in off of Fifth. We did do that evaluation, but the only feasible access route right now is off of Rufo Road for the soil stockpile removal. It is only for that activity. So I just want to be clear. It is only to remove the two soil stockpiles. Kristen, are you seeing any additional questions? Or does anybody have a hand that they want to raise? Is there a question you want to ask live?
While we're waiting for that, someone just asked what our plans were to reopen the splash pad that's in the tot lot area.
Lee, do you want to take that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we can double check with Weston and Sampson just to make sure there's nothing stopping us. The water coming into the splash pad is from Cambridge Water, so it is not contaminated. And we're in the process right now, citywide, turning on all of our water stuff. So things like irrigation and water fountains and water play. So over the next month or so, all of that stuff should get opened.
Yeah, the hard surfaces in that lower area of the park where the tot lot is, where the splash pad is located, are viewed as a barrier to the underlying soils. So there's no real concern over exposure there in that regard.
Kristen Marianne has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Marianne. You should be able to unmute.
Yeah. I just want to say that the company that you used to do the tot lot were very respectful of the people on Gore Street, or at least to me. And I live right across the street from the park. I just want to shout out to them that they were good. They didn't make that much noise. As the day went on, they did, but first thing in the morning, they didn't. And a couple of times I was pulling my car out and they says, you need help? They were really good. And I just want to shout out to you that, the company that you used was good.
Thanks, Marianne. We appreciate that.
All right, I think we can continue with the presentation and then we'll have another opportunity in a bit to ask some more questions.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Going on to the second half of the presentation, I'd like to introduce you to Cassie Bethany, who's going to take us through the park overview.
Thank you so much. And of course, Given the circumstances, we are excited to take this opportunity to consider what opportunities we have to make improvements at Gold Star. So I will go through kind of a general overview of where we are and some givens, and then I'll pass it over to Farah, one of our landscape architects at Weston and Sampson, to talk about some design ideas, really just to wet the whistle. And we'd love to hear feedback on some ideas that you have as we start to embark on this conceptual design phase of the work. So next slide. So we've identified a few goals and givens. We'd love to hear your input on these as when we open the discussion portion of this meeting. So of course, we've just been talking about it. We're remediating and reopening this park for public use. That's a given, obviously, and all of the soft and hardscape will be removed as part of this project. So all the pathways, lawn areas, the playground, as John mentioned, will be removed and re-laid down in a new form. We do love the trees. They're amazing. They're beautiful. We want to protect as many trees as humanly possible with this plan. And so we're going to work our darndest to get them to work around them and really protect them. There may be a few losses here and there, but I think every single tree will be evaluated for its health and we'll make sure that we can protect and keep those intact. Of course, with any park improvement project, we want to make sure that we're providing a safe space, an accessible space, and that it's inclusive for all of our visitors, our residents, our community members to enjoy. And we are also tying this work into a new connection to the Grand Junk Connector community path, which runs along that open route that's currently open. So this is an opportunity to build that into this work. And then I think finally and importantly, the main program within this park space will largely remain the same. So the ball field, the playground space, the basketball court, we're not planning on reimagining where these are located, but we do have an opportunity to make improvements upon these spaces. And as you know, as you should know, the basketball court project has already been redesigned. And so that new design would be put in the place of the basketball court. Next slide. So just for those of you who don't live next door, like Marianne, we just included a few photos here to remind folks of the space and the beautiful mature tree canopy in this image. On the left, in the ball fields, there are several spots for picnic tables near the basketball courts and seating opportunities. We'd love to keep those seating options and gathering spaces in place or reimagined. Many different ways to meander through this site through pathway connections. Next slide. We of course have the tot lot playground that has a splash pad, as was mentioned. It has climbing and swinging, slide opportunities, the sand pit area, spinners and steppers. So we'd love to hear in the comments and in the discussion, what do you love about the playground? What are some gaps that we can fill in through this playground reimagining? Because we do have an opportunity to bring in new play structures and new play value to this space. There's also a community board at Gord Street we'd look to reimagine in some way. And then the path along the skate rink is shown in that lower right image. Next slide. And then we have many different entrances through the park. We've got if you continue along the path along the rink, you'll end up at the Star Market entrance that's shown in the large image next to the ball fields. That's a little bit less formalized. And then we have more formalized entrances along Winter Street with these pillars. Those we would intend to keep. And then we have some smaller secondary entrances that don't necessarily have that kind of grandiose pillars. With an example is shown at the lower right image. So we we will be looking at entrances as well through this process. Next slide. And then just overall to orient folks with the images that we just saw, those entrances are marked in the red circles, pathways are in blue, and the bigger pathways are thicker, and some of the secondary pathways are lighter tone. We've got the playground and splash pad in the south, the ball fields and soccer field overlays in the main core of the park. There's some opportunity for passive recreation, or that's what happens now between the playground and the softball fields, or ball fields. We have our basketball court in the northeast corner and seating area. Existing trees are shown in this plan in that lighter shaded tone over the grass. And then, of course, our accessible connections throughout. So just to orient folks on that, and then I'll pass this slide deck over to Farah to talk about, oh, sorry, missing a slide here. Existing tree canopy. So the city is undergoing a tree canopy assessment. And as the trees leaf out, we'll be assessing whether or not, the health of those, if they're in poor, good, excellent condition, so that we can have a better sense of what impacts we may be making to these trees. And now, my apologies, I will pass it over to Farah to discuss some design ideas.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight. As Cassie mentioned, we've developed some preliminary ideas based on site conditions and some preliminary city feedback. Tonight, I'll share these ideas, and most importantly, we would like to hear from you on what you'd like to see moving forward, what's worked in the past, and where do we go from here. My presentation is going to go through the park by area, starting with the ball fields. The field will remain in the location and orientation it's currently in and be rebuilt post-site remediation, with improvements to spectator seating and the field dugouts. We're also looking at opportunities to add gathering or seating areas near the ball field, and to make viewing and participation in the sports more comfortable and inclusive. It would be great to hear from the community on what types of sport-specific gathering spaces you'd like to see out at the park. That would be a great point. If anybody has ideas, we'd love to hear on that. Moving forward to the playground, we're exploring a variety of experiences, activities like swinging, sliding, climbing, rocking, and spinning, as well as sensory and musical play features that support wider range of users. Any specific feedback you have on play elements, we should include, even if it's a specific piece of play equipment that you've seen used elsewhere and would love to see here, we'd love to hear it. We'd also appreciate feedback on the style of play structures that the community would be interested in seeing out here. We can explore a nature-inspired playground or a more traditional post and platform, a more climbing-heavy structure, one that you'll never see me get up on and all the way to the top, but I'm sure lots of kids like those, or a more contemporary play structure that's a blend of multiple elements, and often those have quirky shapes to them, like these images on the far right. And of course, we cannot forget about playground amenities. Also thinking about how the park supports different types of use within the playground and beyond, in terms of areas for teens to gather, quiet spaces to rest, spaces for caregivers to sit and connect and view their kids playing and enjoying the park. The renovation would also include a new splash pad with elements like ground spray or misting features, interactive jets with the and possibly vertical elements like there are out there today. Could look at incorporating natural boulders to give a softer feel to the splash pad as well. That would provide some fun activities, the winter month in the warmer months. And then beyond play and sports, we're also exploring sort of a more passive, so volleyball and exercise equipment, hammocks, posts, and other informal seating styles that we'd like to hear from the community what styles of seating work out there. Tree planting, as Lee mentioned and Cassie mentioned, will be a huge part of this project and an opportunity to add more to the existing tree canopy out on the site. And then just thinking through flexible spaces that can evolve with community needs. We want to make sure that the space is designed in a way that works for the community and the needs. And so I think that was pretty quick. These are very preliminary ideas. We really want to understand from you what's missing out at the park, what people would like to see out here. So in a minute, I'll hand it over to Jen and we can open it back up. But I did want to throw up here the briefly go over the project timeline. I know Lee went through it a little bit, but just in a little bit more detail, April, the tot lot is opening. In June, it was mentioned the community meeting. And during summer to fall, we're hoping to work on the construction documents and develop those. And that's kind of the rest of the timeline. We're hoping to commence construction in spring of 2027. And the goal is to reopen the park in fall of 2028. Throughout the entire process, we want community feedback, and tonight is one of those opportunities. I'll pass it to Jen for any final remarks and anything I might have missed that you'd like to bring up.
Thanks, Farah. Can you leave the timeline up for a second? I just want to touch upon this. Thank you, everybody who presented tonight. Great information, and I really appreciate all the feedback we're getting and questions we're getting from the neighborhood. I do want to just highlight that the tot lot will be reopening this week. We will have an in-person community meeting on June 9th. Please expect that there will be follow-up to that community meeting. We will hold a series of meetings before we get to a final design. So please know that it's not just the single meeting. We will have a follow-up to that. I know we've got several questions in the chat, and I will monitor the hand raises. Kristen, would you please start to go through? Thank you.
Abigail and a few others had a good question about the drainage. Will the drainage be improved given how the field is low and often soggy and unable to be used?
Yes, we are
Absolutely.
definitely evaluating drainage as a part of this project.
Great.
Thank you.
Can the basketball court be lined for pickleball?
Thank you very much for that question. It's a popular question. I think we will definitely revisit that and see if that is an opportunity.
Would the morning off-leash dog play area be reinstated when this work is completed?
I don't foresee that the programming at this park will change.
All right, and that person too had a great point about if we put in any water fountains, having one with that ground level dog drinking bowl would be awesome. I know a lot of
I
people like
believe that
those.
that is our new city standard. Yes.
We have someone that would like, and I agree with this one, separate play structures for younger kids and older kids.
Definitely, we will write that down for
Yes.
the park design elements. Yes.
We have some love for the idea of volleyball or even pickleball for adults to gather. Some more
Thank you
shade.
very much. Yes, keep going. Those are all great suggestions that I think we are presenting. So we it's one of those things where there's a finite space. So we will definitely evaluate those opportunities.
All right. John, would the city consider postponing the renovation at Ahern Field until this remediation is complete? Or are the current plans for both open spaces to be under renovation at the same time?
No, that's a great question, Kristen. I'm not sure I can fully answer it, but I mean, we are in the process of answering a city council policy order that just went up on Monday night to talk a little bit more about Ahern Field. So we'll get more information out about Ahern. This is all about timing. We certainly don't want to have everything under construction at the same time. But we need to look at the timelines for both those projects. I don't anticipate us holding off on Ahern only because we need to renovate that field. And it needs to be in conjunction with some of the renovations that are actually happening at the school too. So we can certainly look into timing, but I don't want to promise anybody that we could, hold off on that field project for a significant amount of time.
Thank you. So if we're going to be redoing the paths throughout the park, is there any way to replace them with a material that's similar to like a running track?
We have not gotten into materials, but we're open for suggestions for materials. Thank you very much.
Okay. People said it has gone through some updates with little input throughout the years past, so they're very excited that this will be an open opportunity for the neighborhood to really get to make some decisions.
Thank you so much.
See, we also have a couple concerns with everyone that likes pickleball. There's always some folks that don't, and the biggest concern that I'm seeing here in the chat is the noise that it could cause to some neighbors, and there are some homes close to the court, so that will be something that's considered if we open that discussion again.
Come on June 9th. Let's talk about it.
Can we talk a little bit about someone's wondering why major changes to the space aren't included in the design discussion?
Well, I think that in talking with Adam Corbeil, who's our recreation director, the programming for this field is so vital in so many ways. And so there is a need for the ball field to be at this location. And that is a very specific dimension that has to be maintained. So, with that being a driving factor, we're trying to keep as many of these elements in place and then looking to enhance wherever we can. So that's a major driving force right there.
Thank you. Someone's asking if while Gold Star is under remediation and reconstruction, would the city consider any off-leash dog area and somewhere else around East Cambridge? I don't know if Gary, if you want to speak to this, I know that's come up a bit.
Yes, I can. Sorry, I just needed to unmute.
That's okay.
So the city has opened up temporarily at Ahern while the school adjacent is closed and while that's anticipating construction. There are morning shared use hours at that location. Once Ahern is under construction, we do not anticipate identifying an additional shared use location. There are several fenced options in the neighborhood. I believe that had gone out in an earlier communication a few months ago that we can recirculate when that time comes. But we don't, when both sites are offline, we don't anticipate finding another location for temporary off-leash use.
Thank you. Someone recommended if we could find some adequate rodent-proof trash receptacles because the picnic table area that was closest to McDonald's always had trash around the area and maybe some signs of critters.
Yeah, I mean, Kristen, the enclosed big bellies are city standard at this point, so those are the ones that would go back.
Perfect. A couple of other questions here. Will we revisit the lighting along the paths as part of this work? Maybe make it brighter in the evenings?
We will definitely be working with Mark Mello, the city electrician, specific to the lighting and make sure that we're meeting the city standards.
Yep, Miriam brought up which is right, and I think Gary can speak to if we need, but during the basketball court redesign, that was really going on already before all of this. That pickleball was taken off the table due to some concerns with the neighbors closest to the courts.
Marianne, I'm so happy to be meeting with you and getting me up to speed with where we are with the park. It seems like you are institutional knowledge. Thank you so much for your participation.
I don't know if anybody has any additional questions. Also, if anyone thinks of any questions after we leave here, my information and Jen's is at the bottom of the screen right now. And anything you send, we'll share with the full design team.
Does anybody have any last thoughts? Does anyone want to raise a hand? I believe there was one raised hand earlier. I'm wondering if they're still here. Please feel free. Okay, seeing none. Just final thoughts. Thank you all so much for coming and giving us your time. We greatly appreciate it. The next meeting will be June 9th, 6 o'clock. We're very excited to meet you in person, and please be in touch. We will keep all of your comments, and definitely we will let the Totla will reopen tomorrow. We heard your concerns about dust. We will make sure we are monitoring dust, and we've heard your concerns about reopening a path. We will definitely evaluate the opportunity to potentially open another path. Thank you so much for sharing your concerns with us, and we will see you on June 9th.